Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we're going to learn how to train our ears. You're going to learn how to train your ear, and we're going to have an ear training quiz. We're going to find out how well are you using your ear when you play music. And I think for many of you, you're going to find that you're just not using your ear enough. Most people don't really train their ear enough in their musical journey. They're so focused on just playing the right or wrong notes at the piano or on their musical instrument that when they hear a song, they actually can't identify even the most basic things in music. And I think this is a very underserved area of music, is learning to train your ear. So this little quiz today, you're going to find out where you're up to, and you're going to have some really useful concepts you can start working on straight away, because there's no reason why you can't just be out at the supermarket and you can hear some music playing in the background, some pop music, it usually is, just something on the radio, and go, oh, that's the chords. That's how that song goes. It's those chords. And identifying simple things like major and minor chords in songs. We're not talking about having perfect pitch, by the way. We're talking about great relative pitch, just being able to hear something and quickly work it out on the piano. And this is a skill that can be taught and learned. And it really, it makes me laugh, actually, that that out there in the audio world, where people are spending literally, hundreds and thousands of dollars and pounds on audio equipment, fancy hi-fi stuff that sounds really, really, really good, and yet their ear can't even tell the difference between a major and a minor chord. I think it's almost hilarious. And if you're an audiophile, for instance, you should watch this video, because all the money you've spent on buying musical equipment that's expensive and that sounds good, you actually get some return on your investment now, because these are simple landmarks in compositions that we can learn and hear. And it's very understandable that people miss out on all of this, because they've been told it's a dark art, people that can play by ear. Everyone's got a story. Oh, I had an uncle, he could just sit down on the piano and work it out by ear. He was just clever, he was just switched on the right way. And so it's a dark art. It can be taught and learnt. And the reason why a lot of people also miss out on this is that most people don't learn by ear. They're not auditory learners. They are visual learners, or they're kinesthetic learners, physical learners with muscle memory. So their ear sort of gets, neglected. So today we're going to have a quiz. We're going to fix all that right now. And if you're a fan of our work at the London Contemporary School of Piano, just visit our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get your free ear training quiz resources kit, which we've got now added to the resources kit. I know this has been a long introduction. I just want to really point out how important this is, like how cool it might be if you could just go out and hear a song and work some of it out on the piano. Would that be a nice thing to be able to do? And it's very possible. So the first thing we're going to quiz is, do you know the difference between major and minor? Well, let's find out. So I'm going to play a chord. You can get a pen or a pencil out. I'm going to play a chord 3 or 4 times, maybe just twice sometimes, and then I want you to guess, is it major or is it minor? Now, you might have to look away from my hands if that's a clue, and if you need to do that, that's fine. You might not recognise the shapes, but if you do, definitely need to look away. That was major. What about this one? That was minor. That was minor. That was major. That was minor. That was major. That was major. That was minor. How did you go? 80%, 90%, 50%? This is all just guesswork. That's the great thing about learning to play by ear, is you don't have to be perfect at it. It's detective work. That's the fun bit about it. Now I've given you the talk on how important it is to play by ear. You can now loosen up and don't be scared to make mistakes, because The great thing is, if you're trying to guess whether a chord is major or minor, you've got a 50% chance you'll get it right. And then you'll very quickly figure out if you've got it wrong if you're trying to learn a song by ear. Because you go, okay, yes, that doesn't sound right. Well, let's make it major instead. So you're sort of 50-50. And major and minor is a binary thing. So it's not that necessarily that difficult to train yourself to hear the difference. And some of you would have had difficulty there because I was switching between chords and you were remembering the sound of the last chord and comparing it to the new chord, and that would have jumbled up your ear a bit. So now I'm going to do something a bit different. I'm going to play major to minor or minor to major, and you can compare the sound of the two and guess which order I'm going in. Okay, let's do this. You might need to look away from my hands. I'll do that again. What was that? That was major to minor. What about this one? What was that? That was minor to major. What about this one? That was major to minor. What about this one? Minor to major. Minor to major. Major to minor. So that clarifies it a bit because they're right next to each other. That makes it a bit easier. And that's a good warm-up, I guess you could say, to learning other chords and other progressions by ear. But unfortunately, songs don't necessarily do that sort of obvious thing. So that's just a good practice point to start with. And by the way, if you head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, you can get the free resources kits that accompany these videos. So the next step we're going to have in our journey of playing by ear, we're going to think of chords in a numerical way. We're going to think of the 7 chords in the natural scale. And this is a really good key to working out the details of a song. And this is a challenge you could set yourself, is try and learn a song by ear. Just pick a pop song, a simple pop song, and you can use some of this methodology to try and work it out by ear. And remember, working things out by ear, it's detective work. You're not trying to get it right straight away. You're just looking for clues. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you're trying to put the puzzle together. And the more times you go through that process, the easier it gets, the faster it gets. And then you start hearing things and you go, oh, that's happy birthday chords 1 and 5. Right, then 5 to 1, then it goes to 4 in the middle. And you start to hear the patterns that are happening in music. And again, we're not talking about perfect pitch, we're talking about relative pitch. So that's why the numerical system is so important in helping us learn to play by ear. So for instance, and again, if you head on over to our website, you can get the 7 chord cheat sheet we've got in our resources kit, because this is a really good visualization of that. And for those of you who are more visual in your learning, this will help your eyes trigger your ear, and they can connect together. I do this with students, and it saves them a lot of time. So for instance, if we analyze the 7 natural chords that a scale produces, we get this natural pattern diatonically occurring in the music. Chord 1 is major, chord 2 is minor, chord 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, 7 is diminished. Just forget the diminished chord for now. It's not used that often. It has a very distinctive sound, as you can hear. I want you to think of the 1, 4 and 5 as major and the 2, 3 and 6 as minor. 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. Right, whenever you hear those sorts of sounds in a song, those bright major sounds, you know what they are, right? You can train your ear to hear that, while the 2, 3 and 6, the minor chords, have a more expansive sound. So if we get an iconic chord progression like 1, 5, 6, 4, which is used in a lot of songs, you got major, got another major chord, 1 to 5, and then the 6, which just opens things up a bit, doesn't it? And then the 4, and the 6 was minor, and the 4 was major. So again, 1, 4 and 5 is major, 2, 3 and 6 is minor. You can hear that, can't you? And it doesn't matter what scale you're in, the pattern is the same. major, minor. Now I just did that in the key of E flat major, but the pattern is the same. So you don't need to have perfect pitch if you're thinking numerically. It's either going to be chords 1, 4, and 5 or 2, 3, and 6. But what happens in most songs is it's a dance between those chords. So we're now going to do a quiz. I'm going to play in numerous keys around the piano chord progressions with 1, 4, 5 or 2, 3, 6 in them, mixed all up. I'm going to be mixing them around. I'll just select 4 chords from those 6 and I'll play them. And I want you to try and figure out by ear using guesswork. Just guess. And that's where you can get our ear resources kit by visiting our website. We have some recorded excerpts where you can test yourself. So just head on over to contemporaryschoolofpiano.com to get that. It's totally complimentary, so that can really help your journey. So I'm going to start, and again, you might need to look away from my fingers, but if you need a little bit of a clue, you can look at my hands. I'm going to play in the key of F major. Again, you don't need to know what key I'm in, you just need to try and guess what the progression is in numbers. Now, I'll make this easy for you to begin with. I'm not going to use any minor chords. So I'm only going to be using 1, 4, or 5, but what order am I playing those chords in? Let's see if you can figure this out. Have a try. What was that? That was F major, B flat major, F major, C major, which was chord 1, chord 4, chord 1, chord 5. Let's do another one. And again. There's 1, 5, 4, 1. So it's really determining the differences of those 1, 4s and 5s. Now, we're going to add some of the minor chords into the mix now. So I'm either going to be using 2, 3, or 6 in this progression. I'll just choose one of them, and it will be part of the progression that will also have chords 1, 4, or 5 in it. So listen out to those minor chords and the quality of those minor chords which expand the music. Best of luck. Let's give it a try. And again. That was 1, 3, 4, 1. And so that, again, just so many songs just pass between chords 1 and 6 in different orders. So getting good at hearing them out and listening out for them, I hope today has demonstrated to you that it's actually not that hard to hear them. But you just have to acknowledge their existence rather than just getting lost in this idea that you have to learn things on the piano for the sake of learning them. You can train your ear to hear these sounds out and about, yes, in the supermarket, and go, oh, that song by so-and-so, it's a 1, 5, 6, 4, or it's a 1, 3, 4, 5, or I think it might be this. Let's go to the piano and test it. And on the more complex songs, yes, it's detective work. Chords get mixed around. So I'm going to finish with a little secret. If you were finding that really difficult, go back and do the video again. Maybe do it in 3 or 4 days, this video. Or get our resources kit with some ear tests in there as well. You could do that instead, which is on our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com. But when you do the exercise again, listen to the bass. Because that, for some people, is more helpful. If you hear the bass suggesting that chord, it's a good place to start. And in more complex songs, that can be useful, because then what happens in more complex songs is that the chords are shifted around. The minor chords are turned into major, and the major chords are turned into minor. So you're firstly finding the bass, and then you're finding the polarity of the chord. Is it major or minor? It might be major in some cases, like this. So you're separating this way of finding the chords into two motions, finding the bass versus finding the polarity of the chord. Is it major or minor? And I spent years as a kid practicing this because I had to. When I was a kid in the 90s, we didn't just have the internet where you could easily find chords for songs. And I would listen to, I was a nerdy kid. I loved listening to Elton John albums, particularly the ones that no one knows of. There's so many in his catalogue. And I'd listen to them, and there was no sheet music anywhere. You could not find any sheet music to some of these amazing songs. And I'd be like, what are the chords? And I had no choice. Today we have all the information in front of us, so I had to figure out the chords by ear, by finding the bass. And there were some songs I still couldn't work out. They were quite complex. And there's a story when I was a kid, actually, it's quite funny. I grew up in quite a rural part of Australia, and so there weren't many music shops around that had much sheet music. There was a local music shop, but it just sort of had the typical sheet music. And I remember we had a family holiday to Sydney, and there was a big music shop there. And I actually found this Elton John piece that had one chord in it that I had been trying to figure out. I'd figured out like 99% of the song, but there was one chord in the song I just couldn't figure out. And I'd tried all 12 tones, but then I was just getting confused. I'd tried process of elimination, I tried everything, and I was still totally unsure of the chord. And I remember rushing into the shop, finding the book, finding the song that was in that book, and looking for that chord, and I found the chord. I was like, it's a D flat major, write it on my hand. I didn't need to write it on my hand. It's a D flat major. I know it's a D flat major now. I have confirmation of that. I'll tell you what, as painful as that experience was, trying to figure out that chord for ages, probably 6 months, maybe even longer, every time I ever heard a D flat major, from after that moment, I knew it was a D flat major. It almost gave me perfect pitch, that experience. So the detective work is actually quite fun. And if you get involved in the detective work of playing by ear becomes a pleasure, not a chore, and it's an amazing skill to have. Isn't it great just to hear something and be able to play it by ear? That's pretty cool. And that's something you can work on in your playing. Yes, it's possible. And if you want us to help you more with your musical journey, visit our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com. It's been a pleasure helping you today. Thank you very much.